Right, a moderator. So please let's give a huge round of applause for Mr. Ravi Shankar, head of CX BFSI Gupshup. So very warm welcome to you. Please have me welcoming our elite set of speakers, Mr. Sunil Pandita, Vice President, Sales India and South Asia, Newgen Software. Welcome to you, sir. Mr. Anuj Bajpai, co-founder and CEO, Liquide. Mr. Ofer Tziperman, Senior Vice President, former CEO of ANAGOG, Intent HQ, ANAGOG. Let's have a huge round of applause. I would also like to welcome Shri Brijesh Singh, Principal Secretary to the Chief Minister, Government of Maharashtra, who will be joining us soon. Let's have once again a huge round of applause for our esteemed panel members. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you. Good morning and apologies for a little delayed start. We're very excited to have you here today. Very excited to have this panel going first thing this morning. Has anybody heard of AI? Really? Nobody? I don't see any hands up. All right, just kidding. Right? So it's very interesting, the times that we live. It's very difficult to discern what is really an interaction with AI and what's really an interaction with human. Things are getting closer, more dangerous. There's very little, gray lines separating the two. Things are getting smarter. Maybe AI is getting smarter than humans. We never know, right? We're getting to a point where customer experience suddenly takes center stage of everything that we do, especially in financial services. And has anybody here not encountered AI as yet in financial services? Okay, so that looks like a pretty sad sign that we've got very few humans out there and more AI out there. So today's discussion is going to be a lot about how we see customer experience getting defined, where are the lines that we need to draw, how do you see the dangers and the mitigants to some of them. We'll wait for Mr. Brijesh Singh, who's a fantastic expert in some of these subjects, to drop in today, and then we'll continue on that side of things as he comes in. But meanwhile, to kick off, right? My first question, which I would love all participants to take a dig at, right? Pretty much all our interaction today is digital, right? Very few interactions that we really need to go in financial services towards a human for help. Most brands actually have 90–95% interactions, even if they have physical mortar stores. We also see there are only 100% digital players out there. Liquide, for example, is one such company. Newgen helps most companies get a lot more digital, and so on and so forth. So my question to start with, and go on across. Right? Do you see already at 90–95% of digital experiences, where do you think AI is going to play a role, and how do you think AI is going to take it into the future? Where do you see this going?
Thanks, Ravi. Morning, everyone. Thank you, GFF, for this opportunity. It's a great question to start with, and no one raised a hand when you said, we have heard of AI, so you can know that everyone has heard of AI. So you're right. Most of the interactions across industries, and more so in banking and financial services, where we play a bigger role, are digital today. And we cut across assets, side products, liability side products, and so given that all those interactions are digital in most of the cases, we're even seeing digital adoptions in even commercial lending, which is a relatively more complex product. So with that in order, the real differentiation between various players in the industry is going to come from innovation, and AI is going to be a key part of that, as we've seen. And this is something which is being demanded by the customers also, who are today talking about hyper-personalized experiences. Now, from our point of view, what we do and how we see specifically in banking, so we look at AI being a differentiator right from the point of customer onboarding. product selection being one example. Very central to the entire lending process, credit decisioning. And we talk of AI, we talk of ethical AI in that area. So that is again a big part where, and we see with the advent of ULI and a lot of APIs available today, that really forms the core of how you are credit enabling a country where the demographic is so heterogeneous, right? So that's the second part. Then customer retention, customer churn rates are of paramount importance in an industry where churn is a big problem. So we see customer retention as another area where it is going to play a big part. And a lot of this is because you have behavioral data, you have needs data available from customers, from the interactions, from the transactions that they do. So we work on those areas to make that entire life cycle of customer to issuance of a product to disbursement and customer service, which is again a big area where we see AI play a big part. Then the last part, which is around risk, financial risk, that's again a big area where we see AI playing a role. So if I were to summarize the three things, one is AI will determine what is how best you can leverage digital on the revenue side through cross-sell, through up-sell, through customer retention. And we are seeing this in unsecured products, on credit cards, on personal loans. It will determine your customer serviceability with not just chatbots and AI agents, but also with processing of NLP with virtual assistants, having conversations in context, and eventually there is the added layer of Gen AI, which we are seeing making it even more conversational. So typical use case is again in credit cards or in unsecured loans, which we do, where your business users, let's say the retail banking head, he has a specific set of APIs, or the credit card head, they can engage with the data that we have, the underlying data science model that we have, and get insight in a very plain English language and be able to launch a product. And the measurability also there becomes deterministic, because your KPI or ROI is measured by what's the uptick in the product that we have. For example, have you been able to increase that product by X percentage? So we believe AI is going to be the differentiator, and this will drive even more adoption of complete digital end-to-end journeys across various product categories.
So I think, needless to say, we are sitting at the cusp of a massive disruption. For the first time in the history of our country, we are able to address two primary complexities. More so in wealth tech, but it matters to most of the other sectors as well. The first one being the huge income disparity that we see, the wealth disparity that we see. The second one is the language complexity that we see in India. So when we look at AI, I think AI is solving for both of these two challenges in a very, very significant manner. And the impact will be widespread across all functions, right? So now we are at a point wherein we could look at a customer in as much depth as possible, possibly slightly better than what a human would do. I could talk about wealth, wherein the wealth industry has historically been characterized by the amount of money that you have. An HNI wealth advisor is very different from an affluent wealth advisor, and so on and so forth. But now we have a single layer, a single engine that could behave and act in the way which is relevant to you as an investor and as a user. So where we stand at this point in time and the way we look at the market, everything is getting disrupted. Any function which is mundane, any function which a machine can learn and do will get disrupted, and we'll find new ways of working there. I think in the short run, the only thing which was safeguarded right now from the impact of AI are functions and activities that involve human emotion. I think AI is still not emotional, but EQ will take some time for the AI to build. Maybe in the long run, that will also get solved for. But wherever a customer has an emotional outburst, wherever human emotions right heavily, I think those functions are still safe. But everywhere else, whether I talk about, like if you look at the value chain, whether it's it's onboarding, whether it's customer, like the initial understanding of the product, discovery of the products, consumption of an advice, everything else, customer support. I think all of it is getting disrupted, and I think over the next 2 years we'll see a lot many new things happening, but that's where we are.
Wonderful. First.
Thank you. So, in addition to what my distinguished colleagues just said, I'd like to tell you that maybe some of you already know that AI revolution that we see right now is just starting. The next phase, which is around the corner, is, AI started from the cloud, but it is quickly moving to the edge devices, meaning that we are all going to start experiencing LLMs, Gen AI, which is going to run from within our phones, even if there's no connection to the cloud. And this revolution is actually going to change everything. If we saw a huge revolution with AI so far, just imagine that you don't need terabytes of data sitting in some remote cloud, but the entire LLM, which in some cases now being called SLM, small language models, is now being placed into our own devices. It will have implications for the good on privacy. We may discuss that later. It will have implications on the amount of personalization that can be done, because this is now happening from within my phone. And if my phone would know to put a red carpet in front of me whenever I go, whatever I do, because it will be able, thanks to AI, to predict what I'm likely to do next, trust me, this is going to be the next phase of revolution. And like everything that is happening in only the last 2 years, this is really going to unfold very quickly.
So sorry to interrupt the session, so sorry. I would like to take this opportunity to invite on stage Shri Brijesh Singh, Principal Secretary to the Chief Minister, Government of Maharashtra. Let's have a huge round of applause for Secretary. So I'm honored to have you. Sorry, please continue the session.
Thank you. It's a true honor for us to have Mr. Brijesh Singh here. Not many of you know, but he's one of the finest experts that we have in our country in terms of cybersecurity. He's an outstanding police officer, IPS cadre, and a little secret, he's also a fabulous author. There's a very interesting book that he's put out. I got that trivia today from him. I'm going to pick that book up and see how it goes. So, since I have you, and this has been something that most of us are really excited and worried about too, is the way AI is starting to proliferate into a lot of what we do in our financial services, in terms of engagement, in terms of companies deploying tech, which is on the AI side of things. It's very difficult for a customer to really make out whether this is a human I'm interacting with. Is this genuine that I'm interacting with? Or even if it's something which is a real reason why somebody's reaching out, or is this a malicious AI-driven bot or a conversation they're having? Like, you're handling many hats. You're running marketing, advertising for the state. You're an outstanding IPS officer, and also a deep tech expert in security. How do you see all of this happening, and what guidance would you think we should have?
There was a movie called Her. Yes. So, that is hyper-personalization that is happening for us. But the whole concept of a CAPTCHA, of a completely automated public Turing test to compare a computer with human alike, has been turned upside down. That it's difficult to know whether there's a human on the other side or not. Now, however, I would take this with a grain of salt. First of all, we should distinguish between Gen AI and AI. So AI, ML were amazing things, and they've been around for a very long time, since 1960s. Gen AI is something new. It's a stochastic parrot. It's a smart autocomplete, right? And it hallucinates a lot. So something like government, which is very critical, I think we should have a bit of caution before we start looking into AI chatbots for government. I'll give you 3 examples. A church in America started an AI pastor. By the 3rd day, it was asking people to do baptisms in Gatorade. This is real. You can Google this. Air Canada chatbot invented a new refund policy and gave refunds to people. The Chevrolet chatbot started selling Chevys for $1. So, while you have these chatbots, they are not the end all. Now, apart from this, for India, we have 18 official languages, right? And all of the LLMs, large language models, are basically built on Wikipedia and Reddit and things like that. It's a very small part of the world, but written by the white man in his own word. It does not have any understanding, any cultural nuance, any sensitivity towards what India is, or what Arabia is, or what Africa is. So, I would really appreciate China here. By 3 months after November 2022, they had 40 foundational models already. I don't know what we're doing here. We talk about educational institutions, but none of them has come up with a foundational model. Let apart, language-specific models. If the bot has not read about us, what is it going to tell about us? And imagine the power of amplification that's going to happen. It's really dangerous. And I feel that model bias is something we should answer, especially before we put them into anything critical. And look at now multimodality. With multimodality, emotion detection in real time, these things are going to seem very, very real. And whatever biases they have are going to be amplified. So the LLMs should not be taken as a source of truth. They can be, good stochastic parrots. They are trying to mimic human sentences, but that's all. In any critical situations, you see the difference between there's a software called Perplexity, which has 0 temperature. Try and use Perplexity and try and use another chatbot. Also, try and use offline, LLMs. You would get very different answers. Or same question asked to the same LLM would have different answers. So I would take it with a grain of salt. I would feel that this is technology which is not very well developed and it's been, shoved upon everybody. And I would be rather cautious before I put it to, let's say, use in agriculture, where you are solving problems. I don't know what seeds they will start, what seeds or weeds they will ask people to grow. So I would take it with a grain of salt.
It's very interesting what you just said. So, as a follow-on to that, and, to Ofer's question, and then I'll go back to yourself on this one. We see almost every brand have a chatbot on their website. And it used to be unidirectional many years ago. I started the first one in this country, and then we went on in the banking industry across multiple places, and now it's becoming LLM and more and more. Everybody has one. So what should customers believe and trust? Big question is, how should the governance framework start looking like? We don't have a chief AI officer or competent AI people in most financial brands that face on with these kinds of things. There's hardly a framework. Right? And we got to sit down as vendors and try to help them put this through. What should I be as a financial institution starting to think, and what kind of governance and frameworks do you see offers in other countries as well? And then coming back to India, sir, what would you specifically do? And I have this, so one of you can start and then we can take it from there.
So I think ethical AI principles and like what Anthropic is doing, constitutional AI are good approaches. So you don't try to align a model later on. Because if you try to align models later on, they become dumber and they hallucinate more, like societies. If you control them more, they start hallucinating. So there should be foundational principles while building AI, and world over there is legislation which is coming up. And good guardrails are being built. Good work is happening in UK. EU is doing some good work. I think US also has come up with some good frameworks. It is time that like there is a UN convention happening on cybercrime. Similarly, I believe that there should be an AI convention, and all the countries should come, because this is something which is facing humanity. It's not just about customer experience or about making pictures on Midjourney. It is something which is really hacking your own mind. It's interacting with you, pretending to be a human. So there is time that responsible AI ethics and responsible AI principles are put in place everywhere. Apart from that, the dangers from synthetic biometrics, synthetic identities, and the use of Gen AI in cybercrime is also huge. So that also needs to be taken care of. And these technologies, while they are important, they should not be unburdened.
Thanks.
Yeah, maybe just to complement that, I fully agree that there is a huge danger which is waiting around the corner. But I think that the regulators, as far as we see it from around the globe, are starting to understand the big problem. By the way, it is going to be a continuation of the way that globally privacy is being addressed. Now, over here in India is DPDP, which everybody are now discussing, and that's going to be a major force of how to regulate the industry. That's going to be a continuation of that towards AI. But unfortunately, I would say, we will still see some unresponsible AIs, and unfortunately I must say that seeing what the Grok 2 release happened just a couple of weeks ago, this is an example of where the regulators will have to chime in and put some order into this chaotic situation. And another point is that LLMs, again, speaking about the fact that they will need to become more personal and more individual, and even the source of data that they are going to rely on is going to be more personal and more isolated from the general public in order to avoid some of the bias kind of issues that we are starting to see right now.
Fabulous. So let me paint a little more chaotic picture, and I'll start with you first and Anuj on that. So given that you started talking about computing moving to the edge, AI moving to the edge, it's going to create all kinds of confusion. All your data, everything that you do is suddenly being shared, willingly, unwillingly. Suddenly I know, I'm sitting here, we're discussing this, somebody's listening to it, and next you go to Facebook, you see all kind of ads on privacy and all kind of discussion. So all of this is feeding in, and financial services love when you give permission to everything that you have on your phone, give access everywhere and do everything, so everybody knows everything about you. And that compute is becoming so powerful, right? We're getting to a chaotic picture right now. Yet, no financial crime has been able today to break and understand what I need, advise me correctly, though they are sitting on all the data, and actually personalize that experience for me. I get irrelevant ads. I get irrelevant products sold to me. So, is it real that all this is going to play out and make more meaningful sense of financial services, or it is just a fear that we're going to live with and just give all our data and somebody else consumes it and makes something else, right? So where do you see all of this going? This is going to get real, right? First, from your side first, and then I would specifically like to understand Anuj on wealth tech. Because to me, wealth tech is all about personalization and at different scales and different personas. How do you see both of that?
I think that's a very critical point. In fact, what we see are that personalization and privacy currently cannot coexist, right? And this is where Edge AI is bringing the next message. What we are hearing, we are dealing with Edge AI quite deeply, including with financial service providers. And one of the interesting points is that with Edge AI, the phone itself, or the AI itself, the Edge AI in the phone, can harvest the relevant personal information from within the phone, but keep it in the phone. Right. So, in fact, there is no need anymore to take this information and to do what is being called collection of data to the cloud. And that's a major issue in favor of privacy. So with Edge AI, for the first time, privacy and personalization can coexist.
Sure.
And then what you have to take in consideration is how do you serve me in a personal way if you don't know who I am?
Right.
And this is where part of what Edge AI is doing right now is that instead of taking my data and move it to the logic in the cloud, there is a reverse way. So my data remains in my phone and the logic is being moved into my phone. So my phone can trust my own data, it can live it from within the phone, and it just gets the rules of what should be offered to people with a certain income at a certain location. But the phone will make the final decision without disclosing the personal information. And this is why I'm saying this is kind of the next revolution.
Fabulous. Anuj?
I talk about how at least we are attempting to solve for it, because in wealth tech, if you compromise on privacy, then you have compromised pretty much on your business, right? I think SLM definitely is one of the directions in which the wealth tech industry will move, but SLMs will remain a lot more costlier than LLMs. It will take time for them to proliferate. So the way we are dealing with it is we treat the LLM as a conversational engine, nothing more than that. The way to tackle part of the privacy is to actually delineate the LLM from the privacy data that we have. So we are building huge vast databases in the traditional sense, which are well guarded, they are secure, they are placed in private clouds and so on and so forth. We use the LLM as the source of communication, but there's an NLP engine working right below that, which basically bifurcates the intent. If the intent is personalized, say I want to know how's my portfolio doing, for example, right? What should I do with the next lakh rupees that I want to invest? We run our own prescriptive algorithms there. There's an AI ML engine that takes care of that part of the equation. It doesn't have to necessarily hit the LLM. And we produce it in a more templatized fashion. So the only drawback is that that part of the system which is private to you would look a lot more templatized to you. It may not look like a human talking to you, but we are absolutely fine with that. But for a lot of other pieces of information which are freely available on the internet, let's say you want to understand a regulation behind a particular kind of an investment, if you want to know what is the latest update, if you want to know the market news, etc., that's where the LLM kind of comes into place. So for us, we have been able to bifurcate these two buckets well, and it has been an area of research for Liquide for the last 2-3 years, where we have been trying to figure out how do we safeguard the investor privacy while making the best use of the LLM. So that's the answer.
Yes, sir.
Just a small point. I think there's a midway here. If you use homomorphic encryption, you would still be able to process encrypted data without, no, it's not a question of error. You would be able to have a balance between encryption and privacy, and use and personalization. So, if you have data with homomorphic encryption, you would be still able to draw insights from that without disclosing who the person is.
That's very interesting. A question, and I will start with Sunil and Ravi, that's right. India is a very complex country. There's so many problems that we need to still solve. A lot of that can actually, AI can enable. For example, language. And like Mr. Brijesh was referring to channeling foundation models, etc. Why don't we see a collaborative effort in this country across a framework to build some of these things, to make a standard for engagement for customers in financial services? What do you think about that? I mean, do you think it's possible? Do you think it's required? We've got 14, 15 major languages where we can address a significant amount of population. We're still depending on some of the external foundational models to build a lot of that, which is strange. But I would love to have a standard of communication in Marathi, English, or Hindi, Tamil, or any other language for banking customers, for insurance customers, simply because you can help penetration, understanding, and convenience of service. And it's also easy for the regulator then to address this, to say, hey, I accept this, and this is a really format customers can trust. So where do you see some of these things going?
So I think that's a great use case for us to build. But most of the financial services organizations that we work with are really focused on on very specific use cases today, which are horizontal or they are specific vertical use cases. But something similar to what Mr. Brijesh mentioned, I think it's great time to have an LLM, which is context of India, right? With so many languages. There were a couple of initiatives which had started, but I think the entire industry needs to collaborate and the regulator can come on board. Something like this will really, expedite the entire movement of GenAI in India, specific to the customer that we have, instead of just taking an LLM which is present there.
Thank you. Any other views on this one? Brijesh, what would you suggest? Should we have a collaborative framework, somebody to build up some guidelines? Do you think it'll work?
I think somewhere culturally we kind of came from some socialistic background in this country, in governance, and hence socialism, though it says that it works for people, there's hardly any collaboration with the people.
That's right.
So we should change this DNA of governance. I'm sorry I'm saying this in a public forum, but yes, we should change this DNA of governance and we should have more collaborative, light touch, sandbox kind of regulation. So I believe that it's a damn good use case wherein industry, academia, and people come together, and we should create at least one foundational element for India.
Absolutely, sir. I do see, if you look at RBI, they have multiple sandboxes, right? A lot of these technologies that we're talking about here have to come with a lot of compute power and support, to be honest. And every bank doesn't have, or every financial institution doesn't have the resources to support this. If we can create an India financial cloud with India support for India, building India LLMs, bring in all the talent that we have in all our engineering colleges, top professors and mathematicians, and say, listen, we want to create this for the people. I think it's a way to go. It will allow us to actually democratize the power of some of these tools and make it more easily available and bring innovation on top of that. Because hundreds of people would love to participate in this sandbox and bring innovation. We should propose something like this at some stage to see how we can do that. Right? A great example would be the RBI Innovation Center that we have in Maharashtra, in Bombay. I think we should, something like that for each one. Okay, I'm going to have 3 minutes left. Any questions from the audience? So I see hands coming up very quickly. Please go ahead. Sorry about this, but we'll probably take 2 questions.
I'll keep it short. Thank you for a very enlightening panel. My question is for jointly Mr. Tziperman, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Mr. Singh. We've had social media for 10 years, and we're no closer to fixing the incentives there. Prediction was not enough for them. Reinforcement was not enough. We've moved into shaping behavior. So it's not enough for a social media post to tell me, I know your demographic, you're going to like this, here's more of the thing, and now like this too. If we have had a decade to fix that problem, we're no closer to fixing this. AI is already here, and you gentlemen are still talking about how collaboration should be happening in the realm of regulation. What makes you think we can fix this? Sorry if it sounds gloom and doom. It just seems like we're already behind the curve. We've seen this before. Why is this going to be different? Thank you.
Yeah, I can understand the cynicism in trusting the tech industry to solve these problems that it created by itself, by the way, right? Out of greed, if to be completely blunt. So I think that it's a time to start introducing new technologies to fix the wrongdoings of the previous technologies. And I think it's time to bring the power back to the individual, and it's time to bring the control back to the individual. And the only way of doing that is these little devices that we are all carrying. Enough is collecting all of our personal data from our devices to unknown clouds. This must end. Either it's going to be through regulation like TPDP, which is a great initiative, exactly in the right direction, or it's going to be simply forced by the public itself. There's a good example, people are not giving permission anymore as they used to do in the past. That's the only way of solving it. New technology will fix the wrongdoings of the previous one.
You made a very interesting point about alignment of incentives. When the internet started, the whole concept of safe harbor under Section 230 Communications Decency Act came, wherein internet was free, and hence whatever you did on your platform, whatever anybody did on your platform, you were not liable. Now look at that, what has happened today. So today, Fintech is a part of geopolitics. There are some people who can change the fortune of the world. Look at Bangladesh, what happened. Right? Look at Arab Springs. Look at how Mr. Pavel Durov was arrested in Russia. So I think it's a time that big tech starts taking responsibility. It's too much power in the hands of too few people, and you don't know where their incentives are lying. And the way internet was structured, initially it was free, then you try to build monetization models, and these monetization models are actually very parasitic. That they are literally feeding on your information to make a product out of you. So this and the governance of internet needs to be fixed.
Fabulous. One more question. Yeah, please go ahead. Right here in front.
Thank you, sir. So my question is to Brijesh, sir. So we talk about AI and LLM models, and you give some few fantastic examples initially. What we are seeing currently that the LLM models are, generating output based on human data, which is there in the internet. Now, the next version of any LLM model is taking an input of all the output is generated by the previous LLM model. Basically, it's a machine-generated output. And take it recursively and compounding it over a period of time, we'll be seeing an output which is where the input is basically machine layer. So do you think that we'll be going farther away from reality and AI models collapsing over a period of time?
It is definitely creating a kind of echo chamber, in itself. You see the amount of text that has been produced by humans in all its civilization is less than what now these machines would be creating in a week, right? All the text that humanity has created over all the civilization would be less than what these things are spewing out without knowing what they are. I was yesterday talking to a scientist. It says it doesn't know what it's saying, so it's not responsible. And as you say, the problem of synthetic data is really severe, because it's in orders of magnitude where if there's a bias, now imagine that bias is getting multiplied. Not even multiplied, it's factorially rising. So essentially then, what my friend here was also saying is that it's time that guardrails need to be put around this stochastic parrot, that you need to have ethical AI, explainable AI, and wherever it's critical, a human in the loop.
Thank you. We're way past time. So thank you so much.